Perseverance is better than defeat. Chapter 2. Written by Lovecake Bacon and read by Read with Determination. Chapter 2. He who has a why to live can bear with almost any how. Trigger warning time. Mild panic attack, descriptions of blood, tickle fights, mentions of spiders and other insects, mild cursing, very subtle mentions of cannibalism, and excessive use of terrible puns jokes. Babe, look at this! His voice calls out to you. It was just as you remembered it, brimming with unquenchable energy as it vibrated through the air, light and unshakable. You follow his voice, feet guiding you to him within the confines of your shared space. When you reach him, he is sitting on his favorite spot on the couch, feet pulled in so to rest his head onto his knees, blanket wrapped around his shoulders, face glued onto the computer, a boyish grin gracing his lips. You take this time to admire the way his emerald eyes seem to sparkle at whatever was on screen. With a smile, you come up behind him, wrapping your arms around his neck, to which he jumps at, quick to relax upon realizing it was you. You hug him close over the couch. You close your tired eyes for a single moment, though that doesn't stop you from greeting him with vigor. What's got you riled up so early in the morning? You're not due out of your den until at least noon. You poked fun while he returns your quip with a simple eye roll. Ha ha, full of jokes, aren't you? It was a rhetorical question, but you answer him anyway. Hey, even if I'm barely awake, you're just gonna have to bear with me. With you being pressed so close to him, you could feel him force a frown onto his face. It pleases you to hear him press the keys just that bit harder. Those were terrible, and using the same one doesn't count. He grumbles in the way you have learned to interpret as endearing. It's 7 in the morning, so unless you give me a better one, shut your mouth. Until then, zip it. I'm trying very hard, you know? Clearly not hard enough, I see. He snipped, with a sly grin earning him a light smack to his face. Owie! No attacking the moneymaker. You snort at that. Yeah, sure. Tell me that when you actually start making money. You got a light nip and a glare for that one. Be nice. I am your future husband, you know. You hum, pressing a kiss to his temple. Oh, I know. He goes to give you a kiss, but you evade by blowing hot morning breath into his face. He scrunches his nose before going back to the laptop with a pout. You chuckle. As much as I enjoy your presence, I'm sure you called me here for a reason. You remind, fluttering your eyes open only for them to land on his laptop, which was open to a real estate website. You turn to him, a raised eyebrow and another question pressed to your lips, but the answer was already ringing in your ears. Beautiful, isn't it? It's our home, or at least I hope it'll be. He takes this moment to steal a glance of you, pushing the frames of his glasses up more so he could look at you more clearly. One day, if you like it, that is. You hold his gaze for just a moment, genuinely observing the open page, leaning forward to grab the mouse to peruse the gallery. The house wasn't anything spectacular, really, if you were frank, but what it lacked in grandeur, it made up for in character. It was as the website described it, a quintessential farmhouse with a stone foundation, wide porch, and board and batten siding gains modern appeal, with a pitched metal roof and clean lines. The land flourished with dazzling bright flowers blooming in the garden that was so vibrant against the green grass in front. It was so simple, yet so elegant. It was truly beautiful. It's wonderful. Yes, wonderful. Until you saw the selling price. "Maddie, we can't afford this." You express this worry as clear as day onto your face when you turn to him, but are met with a confident smile. He pressed a kiss to your cheek as you watch that determined glint twinkle in his eyes. "Yet, my love," he murmured. His tone grew soft while he turned his fierce gaze back to the computer screen, allowing the passion to pull off him in waves. "Not yet." You were awestruck, left stranded, unable to comprehend how his confidence never seemed to waver nor quake under any sort of pressure, and some days you wished you could be more like him. You felt a deep burning inside your chest grow, and though it could never match the surging fire of your lover's eyes, it still smoldered with a gentle steadiness of an ember. Sure, you could never rage forth and tackle the forces of the world like Matt seemed to do, and to do it without fear of the consequences like he does. No, you weren't like that. What you could do was take each challenge head on, and work with the cards you were dealt. That's what suited you best. That's what felt right. That's just so... you. You let out a slow breath, a smile tracing your features once again. You held Matt close. You made a promise right then. You were going to live in a beautiful home with your family, and may it never be this luscious house Matt is showing you now. Deep inside you, you knew it would be a lovely home. How can it not be? Not when you are going to be sharing it with the two people you love most in this world. You sing a soft tune, one with no particular lyrics, a song all your own as you drag one hand from around your fiancé to your belly, rubbing it oh so tenderly. "Only 5 more months, baby. Only 5 more months," you thought cheerily, turning your eyes back to the house, your mind filling with daydreams of waking there each morning and living your lives ordinarily, but always filled with laughter and joy. You're right. Maybe one day. He smiled at you as he softly squeezed the hand that was still around him, his smile growing as you both fell into a comfortable quiet, clicking through the images of your future home. Hopes rising, heart soothing, as promises of not yet linger in the air. You blink away the haze in your eyes, wobbling a bit, looking around in a sort of daze, wondering what triggered such a memory. However, once your eye caught sight of a home that was all too familiar to the one from a time long lost, you were quickly well aware of the reason. There stood a house that held a striking similarity to that of a fragment of the past. A wave of nostalgia slammed into you like a bus as you gazed fondly at the house. A bittersweet smile edged onto your face. A light tug on your sleeve pulled you from the enchantment. You looked down at Silas, who was giving a curious gaze as he held on to you tightly. Upon seeing his calm disposition, it was safe to assume that you hadn't drifted off into La La Land for far too terribly long. You take a second to recollect yourself, then grin to the toddler as you readjust the bags in your hands to grip his hand better. You continue to walk back to your apartment, thankfully without any more distractions. It does not take you long to make it to your crummy apartment, making a beeline to your door. You're glad when you don't run into any unwanted company. You make quick work of loading all your new items into your dwelling, finding amusement in how Silas stumbles beside you, despite carrying the smallest and lightest bag. He is always an angel about it, though. not looking the least bit frustrated as he focused on making it to the doorway to relieve his own burden. Once he made it through the threshold, gently laying down his load while he looked into your eyes, his own sparkling as they searched for approval. To not disappoint, you are quick to offer up a proud smile, setting your own bags onto the floor so you could praise him properly. "Thank you, Silas. Appreciate the help. Does this mean your mama's night now?" You sign alongside, shaking your hands in the ASL applause for him. You can already see the positive effect it's having on his self-esteem. He smiles excitedly, his small frame incapable of holding in all of his energy. He flails about, looking to burst at the seams with excitement. "Night?" he questions, not entirely understanding the principles of the title. You grin down at him, ready to exaggerate the glimmer and glamour of being a storybook night. Taking out your phone, you show him some pictures. He beams, eyes filled with hope. "Yeah, it's someone really cool as they help and protect people. Aren't you cool and helpful, Silas?" The little boy grins up at you as he proceeds to sign the phrase, "I'm so cool," and the new word night with his unschooled hands. He continues to hop from foot to foot as he races to the living room, squealing while he circles the couch with as much clumsy grace a toddler can manage. You laugh at the sight as you gather up your load and rest them on the dining room table. You plant yourself onto your couch as you watch Silas with an amused grin, taking this moment to enjoy the eruption of laughter escaping the child. You let him slip past you, looking seemingly unbothered as the kid makes his rounds, though the playful gleam in the child's face informed you that he knew better than to trust your docile disposition. What can you say? You had to live up to his expectations. A sliver of your mischief peeks through your mask, as a devilish smirk becomes your only warning for when the child passes the mark of no return. You're quick to snatch him right off his feet. He fights against your grasp. However, your arms are wrapped too snugly around him for him to worm his way out. With practiced ease, you immobilize the small child's hands, attacking his sides mercilessly, never relenting as the laughter is ripped free of him. You tickle him endlessly until his tiny hands sign the word for stop and no. Your touch turns soft, permitting Silas to twist out of your hold. He remained close to your side, head to yours, as though he did not fear another tickle attack. You poke at his side teasingly. He balls his fist into the shoulders of your shirt, bearing his head into the bottom of your neck. You both take calming breaths, a giggle escaping every so often as the excitement of your game dies out. Silas tries to reignite the fun by flopping onto your lap, hugging his sides, a weak attempt of protection, looking up at you expectantly as a fit of laughter slips from him. Much to his dismay, you chose to pepper his small form with sloppy, wet kisses, to which he fought his hardest to flee from. It didn't take long for you to have your fill of adorable torture, deciding to let the mini ball of energy regain his lost freedom once more. He made a show of wiping away your slobbery kisses, sending you a mild look of disgust. He signs things like gross and my face wet, mama gross to you, and you choked back a giggle. You pat the top of his head, reining yourself in. Mama's sorry. How about you go get your art supplies and draw a few things for me, okay? You instructed gently, pointing to the TV stand that held the items you spoke of, and a soft fabric green basket just under the television. He complied quickly enough, going to collect the basket with unsteady hands as he brought it back to the table. You do help him lift the items into a secure spot onto the table, as you set rows of crayons and markers neatly across the stacks of papers and coloring books. You take out his favorite coloring book, a book filled to the brim with different sorts of insects, much to your chagrin. You did not understand his obsession with bugs. However, you would never do anything to discourage his interest. You just have to pray that one day he will stop putting little buggy friends into your open hands, and underneath your pillows, and on the rare instances, sleeping with you. You let Silas get to work only after he promises not to draw on anything other than his drawing materials.
Yes, Mama, I promise.
You relax back into your seat as you take to observing Silas complete the difficult task of coloring in the lines. And, as enthralling as watching Silas color is, your mind keeps drifting to other places. By that, you mean a particular skeleton, and the issue of the money hovering over your conscience. About a month has passed, and you have not seen your generous philanthropist anywhere, which, for the most part, was kinda your fault, as you asked to see him again without even exchanging info. You couldn't fault him for forgetting to provide it, seeing as how he had trouble remembering a simple grocery list as is. But that left you with no way to contact your savior and no means to repay him. As much as you would have liked to have said that you hadn't taken advantage of the money given to you by the small monster, or say you were able to hold off every temptation of spending that conveniently handed cash, if you were to say any of that, it would be a massive fucking lie. You were in desperate need of the $690 the skeleton monster just so happened to be offering. Yes, you counted. And yes, you giggled at the discovery because something inside you told you that amount was no accident. You had a whole mouth to feed, and being a single mother living off a single source of income did not leave much room to question where the money came, because at the end of the day, you needed to have a roof over your head. You did try to hold off on spending it though, waiting for a little over 2 weeks before the money became too hot inside your pocket. With the call of a rumbling tummy and no skeleton in sight, you were left with no choice. You spent the money wisely, getting what you needed alongside those new jackets, feeling the bite of winter quickly approaching. You were able to get the new stand mixer, and a ton more food so you and Silas could be comfortable for some time. Sure, it meant eating oatmeal for the better most of your life, but hell, at least it was something. Unfortunately, you were not able to put the rest into savings, because the asshat himself had scammed you out of the last few bucks you had. He had accused you of damaging the brush where everyone parked their car, and bullied you into paying for the repair and labor of it. You refused, at least, at first, refuting his claim as you never park over there, and mainly for this reason. But, as always, he was able to twist it around just right to make you cough up the cash. What could you do? The guy had no cameras, nor you or your neighbors could afford to put up any of your own. Plus, the guy would basically threaten anyone with eviction if they did not comply with his story. Inevitably, you did have to break it to Silas that he was not going to go to the zoo, which of course resulted in a meltdown. Your chest burned with pure rage while you had to rock and hold your baby, empathizing with your child as he worked through his disappointment, despite your heart screaming for retribution. It was so frustrating. The scene nearly broke your damn heart. You wanted nothing more than to give Silas the world and then some, but were rendered helpless to do so. So yeah, it has been a long and quite an eventful few weeks. One thing that did pull you through was your blog. The video catching some traction like always. Well, since the monsters were granted full citizenship, that is. You knew that a lot of your following was made up of monsters, mainly by the messages left by them, thanking you for wasting as little of a meal as possible. You don't know a lot about monsters, but could empathize with their struggle and understood what they did was to survive. You couldn't even begin to imagine what it must have been like, glancing down to Silas, who was in the middle of coloring a spider. If I were stuck down there with Silas, what would I have done? You shudder at the disturbing thoughts that flooded your mind, shaking your head to away the imaginations as you glanced down at your phone to check the time. It read 12:23 p.m. I guess it's that time, isn't it? You muttered as you scroll through your messages. You were to meet with one of your friends, Katie, at the local cafe around 1 o'clock today. Not that you needed to rush or anything. She wasn't called Katie the Flaky for nothing. The concept of her flaking was a near constant. The girl had a real commitment issue. But you loved her all the same because she always made an effort when it really counted. You sigh one last time before pushing yourself onto your feet, so you can place all your new items into the rightful place. You make sure to glance back into the living room to check on Silas' progress, chuckling once he has given up on staying in the lines and has begun scribbling onto the paper randomly with a black marker. You look at the clock. It read 12:28 p.m. Nodding to yourself, you walk in front of Silas as you wave a hand to grab his attention. It was not an easy feat, not with how engaged he was into his artwork. After a few more attempts and even more patience, you got him to look up at you long enough to send him the message. We're going to the cafe today. Can you finish up your drawings so we can leave in 5 minutes, please? He seemed to understand, nodding along with your words as he put the final touches to his masterpiece, which was a green smiley face. He brings it up to you, eyes searching for recognition. I like the smiley face. It's adorable. He beams as he sets down his artwork, bouncing in place as he signs to you.
It's green, light green, green favorite.
He then hunched over to point at the spider he colored in.
Spider orange. I made a spider orange.
Yes, you did draw him orange. Do you like orange, Silas?
Orange spider. I like orange.
That's great. Are you ready to clean up yet? He had to think about that a minute, as if he was truly analyzing if he were ready or not. As a minute came and passed, he nodded his answer.
Yes, I'm ready. Help, please?
You smile. Of course. And so you helped him put the caps back onto his markers and into their little baggies, having lost their boxes ages ago. You let him close the ziplock, knowing full well he couldn't close it all the way, but got fussy when you tried to do it. Sure, the markers would roll out, but nothing you can't fix once he was out of sight. He goes to stack all the coloring books and paper into the basket, allowing Silas the honor of sliding it back under the TV. You watched him tuck in there securely, taking a glance around to make sure everything is accounted for. Once you're sure they are, you give Silas an appreciative smile and a thumbs up. Good job!
Thank you, Mama.
You're welcome, baby. Let's get going, okay? You're grateful that you do not have to get him ready again since you did just come from the store. Silas still had his shoes on. All you had to do was slide his jacket back on and walk out. You peek at the clock for the last time, the time reading 12:45 p.m. Okay, so a tad early. Not that it matters. Just because Katie was a flake did not mean you had to be one too. With one last look to a complacent Silas, you head out, and hopefully to a familiar face. Yes, can I have a large latte with a kid's chocolate milk, please? You felt a swift pat on your leg to look down to see a small pair of eyes, glittering from a little red velvet cupcake, then to you, practically begging you with an insistent gaze. Well, he was pretty good today. And that was how you got weaseled out of an additional $5 and a crying wallet. You're very lucky that I love you, you groan, snatching up the overpriced confectionery goodness as you march up to your designated seat, the second row from the door, window seat with a cushioned booth. You usually sit at the door closest to the entrance, just in case Silas wants to be a brat and decides to throw a temper tantrum in the middle of eating. That way, you can take him out for a breather as well as keep a good watch on your items in the instance you have to leave them behind. It's not like you want to assume anyone would try and steal your stuff, however. It just wasn't wise to depend on the staff who honestly don't get paid enough to watch your things. You set the plate down to lift Silas into the booth, moving him into your lap as you sat down. Silas' gaze is solely on the treat ahead of him, and you do your best not to roll your eyes. You cut the cake into two, one side dwarfing the other. You slid the small piece over to Silas, taking the larger slice for yourself and placing it on one of the available napkins on the table. Silas doesn't seem to mind that his piece is the smaller of the two, and just digs into the scrumptious dessert. You take a bite out of your share, relishing in the rich flavor of the cream cheese frosting, the moistness of the velvet, and the decadent tang from the buttermilk. It was almost worth splurging on. Almost. You and Silas enjoy your cake for the most part. Both of you relax in the familiar atmosphere of the cafe. The smell of freshly brewed coffee, the scent of sugary delights wafting from the back kitchen, the soft chatter of conversation of people enjoying their afternoon in peace. The shop was not nearly as busy as it usually is. Seeing the coffee shop wasn't bustling from the lunch rush just yet, so you chalk up the slowness to it being a Sunday. To pass the time, you retrieve your beat-up mobile device and put on Morphle is Alone and Cries, the ASL release on for him. You rest your phone open on your pop socket like a movie stand, his eyes fixating automatically on the program. It was cute how invested he could get into the little animation. He continued to stuff his delicious red velvet cake into his chubby cheeks. You ignore the mess he was making on his face, leaving smears all over. You decided to clean it all off once he was completely done, so you wouldn't be trapped in an endless battle of wiping food from the child's face. Granted, it wasn't like he had a variety to choose from, and very few kid channels cater to deaf children. Even less the channels that did more than spell the fucking alphabet. So yeah, it was frustrating. The search for actual educational content for Silas was a quest, but luckily you stumbled upon this MeTube channel called Moonbug Kids Sign Language for Kids. It was truly a godsend, you thought as you pressed the play button to start the video. You would never admit this, but you often found yourself actually getting into the kiddie animations, even despite your best effort not to. It wasn't like you sought out to watch the shows, but if you were, let's say, in the same room as Silas and he just so happened to be watching them, then there was no problem now, was there? Watching alongside him was only to encourage engagement, right? Plus, it helps you keep your sign language from getting rusty and, oh no, Morphle is crying again. Don't cry, Morphle. It's not my fault. They make kids' shows so enticing on purpose. It's literally designed to draw their attention. I'm not weird. Brain, quick to rationalize your odd fascination with the toddler cartoons. So much so that you don't notice the doorway's little bells going off, signaling the appearance of a new customer. You were so enraptured by the adventures of Morphle that you don't see a familiar stained blue jacket walking up to the pastry display, or how a distinguishable pair of worn pink slippers rocked on their heels to lean forward and check out the cafe's goods. One was only left to wonder how that unmistakable cracked skull went completely unnoticed by you. It wasn't until that deep, silk-like voice, with just enough edge to it at the end, had broken through your trance, that your gaze immediately shot up to the figure, eyes resting on the counter ahead of you, as you watched that long-awaited figure quietly go about their day.
Come on, kid. Who's eating ya? It's like you never seen a skeleton before.
He trails off purposely, almost as if there was some hidden joke in his words. Not that you nor the girl behind the counter were given a chance to figure it out, as he was quick to change the topic.
You can't blame you, though. Ain't a whole lot of us,
he says with a slight tilt of his head, subtly, emphasizing the crack in his skull. It takes a moment for the joke to quite click with the barista, but when it does, oh boy was it glorious. Much like you, she looked obviously uncomfortable at the self-deprecating humor. However, unlike you, this girl was unable to hold the snort of laughter that ripped out of her. She slaps a hand over her mouth, looking absolutely mortified that she most likely mocked another's shortcomings.
Oh my gosh, sir, I am so sorry, that was so rude of—
The young girl apologizes in hopes to perhaps soften the backlash, as if he were to write a complaint about her customer service. The girl, however, does not get far in her spluttering. Sans cuts her off with an easy chuckle.
It's no skin off my bones, so don't worry about it. So, I heard you guys got good stuff here, and my bro wanted to get some.
He goes on to explain the kinds of cakes he needed the girl to wrap up for him. You take note of how he is speaking much more fluidly than back in the grocery store. His words aren't as far apart, and his ability to stay focused has definitely shown some improvement. Maybe that time in the store was just an off day for him. You determine, and before you could think much of it, you're calling out to him. "Hey, Sans! Long time no see!" You greet, smiling as you wave over the affluent skeleton to your table, simultaneously pulling a frosting-covered finger out of Silas's nose. It's incredible how much you are capable of once you become a mother. There should be an award for this. You want a reward for this. Nevertheless, you've caught the skeleton's attention, his dark red eyelight squinting curiously at you. Your new buddy looked to have forgotten you before recognition crossed his bony features. A brief look of surprise flashes across his expression, like he didn't expect you to remember him. And not only that, but the call out to him as well. You roll your eyes good-naturedly, motioning him over as you wait patiently for him to come over. Sans finally breaks from his daze, excusing himself from the barista casually as he makes his way over toward you. You take this moment to move Silas onto the booth as you waited to greet Sans amiably on your feet, mostly out of courtesy. Silas doesn't mind being transferred from your lap much, taking to crawling towards the window to people watch. He stuffed another finger into his nose, and you pretend to not notice.
Hey, been a while, hasn't it, kid?
You nod, a playful smirk stretching on your lips. No thanks to a little somebody, chiding him with no real authority in your voice. You dust the crumbs off your well-used jeans. His eyelight flutters down to your thighs, staying there a bit longer than necessary before they make it back to your eyes. You raise a brow in question, to which he just returns a coy shrug. You narrow your eyes a tad, but you decide to leave it where it stands. I wanted to thank you for that time. It really helped me out, like, a lot. He dismisses your thanks with an easy wave.
It's no problem.
He takes note of your jacket, and you swore you saw the corners of his permanent grin lifting the tiniest bit.
Glad it was going to good use.
You blushed as you tugged shyly at the cuffs of your sleeves, brushing loose hair from your heated cheeks. Yeah, I'll totally pay you back once I get the chance, though. Things have just been rough for Silas and me, you know? That money meant more than you'll ever know, you said, unable to hold back the sincerity in your words. But since you're here, whatever you order is on me, you add quickly, not wanting to come off too emotional. Sans didn't respond to you at first, other than tilting his head ever so slightly to the right, while he stared blankly at you. He didn't say anything for the longest time, and if you were honest, it was making you a tad bit uncomfortable. You shook it off, telling yourself that it's okay, he's just a little weird. Sound like a plan, yeah? This seems to bring him back to reality. He shakes his head.
Don't worry about it.
You smirk, swift to gather your purse into your hand while you pull out your wallet. He raised a bone brow at you, looking ready to reject your offer again, but you interrupt him, not giving him a chance. Don't worry. Don't worry. But I'm already so worried. What will I do if I can't buy your precious bagels? Do you wish for me to cry? You weep woefully as you lean against your booth, pressing the back of your hand to your forehead as though you may faint. You take a moment to check on how Silas is faring with your divided attention. You roll your eyes amusingly to see him still picking for the gold you hope he never finds in his nose, and you chuckle before getting back in character, much to Sans' appreciation. It was clear as day that he's enjoying your theatrics, if his strained expression and shaking shoulders were a hint of any kind. So, you continue. For if I cannot repay my Savior, what will I do with my life? Shall I be forever indebted to you, my lord? He finally cracks at this, buckling over into a fit of giggles.
No, don't, kid. Please. Please, don't call me that.
You don't like that? Well, how about my liege instead, then? Sans is cackling at this point, and you can't stop the grin that's tugging at your cheeks. Sans tries to rein in his laughter. In the meantime, you take this opportunity to tap on Silas' arm, so you could sign "Up we go" before picking him up. Once Silas reaches out to you, you cradle him securely in your arms before turning back to Sans, the remnants of his giggles dying out. A smile warms your face. Laughter really does suit this little, slightly intimidating skeleton, and any tenseness you may have felt prior had fallen away with every deep rumble of his thunderous roar. Well, come on. I can hear those delicious pastries calling your name, my liege. You tease as he wipes a false tear from his eye.
You drive a hard bargain, kid. I guess you could.
Sounding like he was finally going to give in to your gentle but unwavering demands. He really was. Until he didn't. It was so abrupt, so unnerving, as though you were looking through a lens that made everything go in slow motion. The way he stood frozen in place, sniffing the air, piercing maroon eyelight zeroing into your side. More specifically, where Silas lied. His blown eyelight had now shrunken into itself, beads of red sweat dripped down his skull. This shift in his attitude had most definitely put you on edge, backing ever so slightly away as you clutched the child in your grasp that much tighter. Not that he gave much notice, too absorbed into the headspace he was currently trapped in. "Hey, you okay there, buddy? You kinda locked up on me." He doesn't give a response, continuing to just stare at Silas with that damn near empty expression. You attempt to elevate the atmosphere with an awkward laugh, willing yourself to remain calm. "Come on, Sans, you're sort of freaking me out here." He doesn't respond. Face stock still as he slowly slips a phalange inside his pocket, tugging at it in a way you knew had to hurt. After what felt like a lifetime, but knew it couldn't have been more than a few brief moments, he said something. Unfortunately, you didn't hear him the first time because of how soft his voice was. Somehow, it was even quieter the second time, so you asked him to repeat himself. "Huh? What did you say?" His eyelight looked to have refocused, just a bit, flickering over to meet yours. You both lock eyes. You patiently watch as he points another phalange over towards Silas. "Blood," he said simply, not adding any sort of context other than that, leaving you stunned silent. "Blood? What do you mean?" You turn to look at Silas. Your cute, adorable, sweet, precious child, and... oh my god, little shit is bleeding. Silas just blinked calmly at you, fingers swimming in the blood pulling out his nose. "No, you little goober," you shout as you make your way back to the booth, proceeding to stuff napkins up the uncaring tot's nose. Nosebleeds were a pretty regular occurrence in your household, and surprisingly enough, Silas has no problem with it. In fact, you are starting to think he did it on purpose. You can't count the number of times you've caught Silas just sitting there, seemingly minding his own business, then bam! He's taking a bloodbath in his Cheerios. Yes, he was still eating them. Yes, you were disgusted, and yes, you took them from him, though that wasn't without a fight. Anyway, you were wiping the blood and snot off Silas' chin, thankfully none of it having dropped onto his favorite green and orange striped sweater. "I am so sorry. He's such a goof when it comes to these things. He never tells me anything and just insists on dripping everywhere. It's a funny story. One time?" The small emergency had you totally forget the whole skeleton weirdness, and it wasn't until you turned back to Sans that you smacked back into reality. He was still, looking like a man lost at sea, shrouded in nothing but a thick fog around him. You blink in confusion. Why is he... Oh. It suddenly clicks in, and you relax immediately. You clean Silas up the best you can, and, after 3 baby wipes and 1 rolled-up napkin later, your kid is as good as new. You set him down, holding his hand while you made sure to push him a bit behind you, a protective stance. You approach Sans with a warm smile, but caution riddled in your form. You lower yourself to meet his gaze, your voice soft like a whisper, but the strength and security that vibrates from it was more potent than any roar. "He's fine, Sans." You can tell Sans is struggling to keep focus, eyelight fuzzing in and out as he tugs on his other socket. You assume to ground himself. It doesn't seem to be working, and something about him hurting himself just doesn't sit right with you. Hey, let's not do that, okay? Can you hear me, big guy?" You coo in an effort to console his fried nerves. "Hey, look at me, buddy," you murmured steadily, waiting for his eye to truly meet your own. When he does, you give him an appreciative smile. He looks at you like a deer caught in the headlights, stiff and unflinching. His breathing has quickened in the time you had been with Silas, just barely bordering the lines of hyperventilation. He wasn't quite to the point of panic, but hell, he was close. You remain calm, never allowing your voice to sound anything other than soothing. Good, you're okay. How about this? We're going to sit in the booth over there, huh? Doesn't that sound nice? You assure, inwardly cringing at yourself for using your mommy voice on him. Hell, it's all you know, so you sure as hell were going to use it. Is it all right if I touch you? You ask, holding out a hand toward him. You watch his unsure eyelights flicker from your palm, then back to your face again, conflicted. You keep an air of serenity about you, smiling a bit wider when the little skeleton nodded yes in confirmation. You slowly reach out to him, resting a gentle hand onto his shoulder as you lead him to the booth, guiding him down into the seat. His breathing is getting worse by the second, doing himself no favors by hunching into himself. Hey, I'ma need you to sit back for me, okay, buddy? It's not good to curl up like that when you're breathing all weird. You advise as you push him up until his back is to the seat. You help Silas on top of the table, handing him your phone so you can concentrate on soothing Sans. What can you possibly do to keep him from spiraling into a panic attack? You rack your brain for an answer, until an idea pops into your head. Hey Sans, isn't it a beautiful day today? Not much reaction, but you did see the corners of his lip twitch. Aw, come on, QT. Don't leave me hanging. You try again, the fuzz in his eyes sharpening just a tad bit. Oh, come on, Sans. I have a feeling you can espresso yourself better than that. You get a soft chuckle. It is faint, but it's there. Good, you're with me. You're gonna have to help me out with this next one, okay? Knock, knock. He tilted his head a little bit before answering.
Who's there?
Mustache.
Mustache who?
His smile widens, so you assume he's heard it before. You carry on. I must ask you a question, but I'll shave it for later.
That's terrible, kid.
He's a bit dazed, but he's relaxing by any means. How about another one? He nods yes, welcoming the distraction. Okay. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Boo.
Boo hoo.
His response time is getting better, and from the small smirk he's giving you, you know that he knows the punchline already. You deliver it anyway. Aw, please don't cry. A stifled giggle escapes him, and you feel relieved. He doesn't seem to be bordering a panic attack anymore, though he's still very tense. You're feeling all right now, needing to know if he required more reassurance.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. Just have a killer headache now.
Your concern for his well-being causes you to not quite register the deadly joke. He's still not in the best shape, and he needs to be with someone familiar, someone better equipped at handling him than I can. So, got anyone you can call, and maybe pick you up? It felt like the right thing to do, primarily because of his little episode and all. If you haven't, I don't mind taking you home. He took a moment to think this over while you fluffed the ends of Silas's hair. You were glad he was being so good.
Papyrus,
he mumbled as he pulled out a cell phone from his pocket. It looked like a relatively new model, not a brand you've quite seen before. His eyelight starts to do that thing where it starts hazing in and out. Thoughts of the grocery store trip from a month ago comes to mind. You watch him unlock his phone many times, only for the internal timer to clock out, forcing him to start all over again. It was frustrating to watch, but you sympathize with how difficult it must be for him. You let the negative emotion roll off of you as you held your hand out, a helpful smile on your lips. I can call them for you, if you want, that is. You offer him every opportunity to object to your help. If he wants it, it'll be available, but if he doesn't, then you would have to be patient and let him go at his own pace. He stared at your outstretched hand for the longest time, thankfully, and your patience was rewarded when he plopped the unlocked device into your hand. Thank you. Which number is his?
First one. Best bro.
You nodded. Looking through his contacts, you did, in fact, find he was the first contact. Additionally, you discovered that he was also the only contact. You didn't have the time to digest how you felt about that, pressing the call as you listened to the ever-familiar ringing. You don't wait long as the other person picks up precisely on the second ring.
Hello, Sans. Why is it that you are calling me at such an hour? Did your trip at the bakery not go well? You better not be being a lazybones. Have you fallen asleep in a bush and are waiting for me to carry you home again? Brother, I have told you time and time again that I will not be doing that any longer, for there are more greater and amazing things I could be doing. But if I must...
Okay, wow, he's loud. R.I.P. eardrums. R.I.P. Oh, excuse me, I am sorry to interrupt you, but is this Papyrus speaking? You cut off the presumably other monster's rant. As entertaining as it was to learn of Sans' strange yet hilarious behavior, however, you just needed to get to business. The other person on the line had quieted quick enough, though. Too quickly, in fact. The line became so unnaturally silent that it started to make you queasy with the sudden muteness of it. Hello?
Why do you have my brother's phone?
You blink in surprise at the tone he was taking with you. It wasn't cold, nor was it clipped. No, there wasn't anything odd about his voice in particular. Maybe that's what was so off-putting about it. It was measured and even, and though on the surface it did not sound welcoming, it for certain did not carry the same mirth it once had. You, for some reason, felt as though you needed to choose your next words very carefully, or else you were not going to like the outcome. You take a steady breath in, settle your nerves, and then you speak. Yes. Well, Sans let me use it so I could call you. He was having a bit of a hard time doing it himself. I do believe he had a minor panic attack. Don't worry, I was able to bring him down quite a bit, but I do think it would be best if he were to relax in the comfort of his own home. I was wondering if you would be able to come pick him up? If not, I don't mind driving him. It was still quiet for a few beats, and to the point you feared this Papyrus guy wasn't even there anymore. But you didn't hear him hang up, so you remained on the line. Like a weight being lifted, the other speaker came back, speaking as if there were never a quiet moment between you two.
Well, thank you, mysterious stranger, for assisting my brother. I, the great Papyrus, am more than willing to come and collect my lazy bones of a brother with haste. I shall be there as soon as yesterday. Fear not, I shall be there in a flash. Please watch over him until I have made my arrival. Farewell.
And before you can utter a word, the familiar droning of the dial tone greeted you. Wow, that was something. Does he even know where we're at? Like, sure, we're still at the coffee shop, but how does he know that? You were interrupted by the sound of Sans' phone ringing. Without thinking, you answered it. Hello?
Ah, yes, mysterious stranger. I apologize. But is your current location a Cup of Joe's cafe? Yes?
An amused smirk pulled at the corners of your lips. Yes, we are there. Would you like me to send the address as well?
There is no need, for I know exactly where to go. Farewell, mysterious stranger. I shall be there shortly.
He hung up, cutting the conversation short once again. That person, whoever they were, was really something else. You just had to laugh at the ridiculousness of it all. You glance over to Sans, whose head is tilted to the side, most likely curious about whatever the fuck just happened in front of him. Your brother. His eyelight met yours, wavering every now and then, but you can tell he's invested in your answer. It's pretty cool, you finish honestly. You can see him physically relaxed, a genuine smile on his face when he says,
Yeah, the coolest.
You both share a smile. So, while we wait for him, I have but one question. He raised a brow, looking slightly suspicious.
Shoot.
Your eyes gleam as a devious smile etched into your lips. Knock, knock. When you saw the mischief in his eye, you knew you had him.
Who's there?
His response was almost instant, with his own permanent smile stretching 5 times wider. His head resting comfortably in his hand, eyelights going half-lidded. You gulp inwardly, and wished you could stall his departure for however longer you possibly could. Deep down, you felt that his going would be bitter, yet his stay, oh so sweet. And now it's time for some more bloopers!
I'll take time, I'll take time, I'll take time, I'll take time.
Not that it matters, because Katie was a flake.
Stop scratching the couch. Stop scratching the couch. Stop scratching the couch.
But I'm already so worried. What will I do if I can't buy your precious bagels? Do you wish for me to cry? Okay, I gotta do this again. Oh my god, this line, I love it!
No, don't, kid. Please. Please, don't call me that.
You don't like that? What about my liege instead, then?
I'm getting my Blanche Devereaux on.
You cut off his giggles. You don't like that? What about my liege instead?
Fuck me!
I sound like I'm trying to seduce myself in this. This is so hilarious. My god! Log cake bacon. Oh my god, this is like the best thing ever. You asking me to read this. Thank you so much. I'm having so much fun with this.